What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the Jump to Start Racing program podcast. My name is Wellington. I'm here with two of my closest friends this week. Ruben, say hello.
What's going on, guys?
Yancy.
Hi.
Also, I'm high, by the way.
This week?
This week. You're my closest friends this week. It may not stay that way next week. Just giving you guys a heads up.
I am feeling some type of way about that.
Anyway, Jump to Start Racing podcast at Jump to Start F1 on Twitter and Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and Stitcher. You could find us there for podcast platforms. We're also on YouTube. Hi.
Yep.
Ruben, how was your weekend, dude?
It was good. Can't complain. Sunday was better.
Sunday was better because of race day.
Yes.
Because of football.
Oh, whatever. I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
American football.
Yes. Not football. Yancy?
NFL season started this weekend.
Yeah. Yancy?
It's a great weekend.
Great weekend.
It was a great weekend. Had a great weekend.
How was yours, Wells?
It was. You know why Yancy's saying it was a great weekend? Because Saturday night he got to hang out with me.
Yeah. That's why I'm feeling some type of way right now.
We didn't paint the town red because we're old, but we did okay. We did okay. I met up with some old friends.
Yes.
Caught up.
I was invited.
And then Sunday,
Yeah.
you guys know, sorry.
I was invited.
You were invited, you didn't go. I'm a huge football fan, and it was week 1 of the NFL season, and I was on the couch, from after the race till about 8 o'clock when I went to my parents' house. I was on the couch either half asleep or watching football.
Or fully asleep.
Or fully asleep.
Hungover?
At times. At times.
I was hungover on Sunday.
Let's jump into it,
But
guys.
we got up on time and we watched them. Thank God we got up.
Let's get into this whole weekend so we can talk about this race.
Yes.
Well, before then, the news. Silly season is getting less silly, or
It peaked, I think.
It peaked.
I think silly season peaked this
once
week.
that domino fell of Valtteri
first chip.
Bottas.
Yeah. Which is what we expected.
Then all the stuff we said the week before was gonna happen just all kind of happened. Russell's over at Mercedes, Albon's over at Williams. Vettel has not been signed to his
Extension.
his second year option contract.
Like a baseball contract now. I picked up the action.
Basketball like that too.
The two AlphaTauri drivers, Gasly and Tsunoda, have been re-signed, so they'll be there next year as well. So the only seat confirmed, yes, the only seat that's really open is still that second Alfa Romeo seat. And we said it was Giovinazzi's to lose, I think is really, or he's a contender for that seat.
He's a contender.
Let's put it
Well,
that way.
it is his seat to lose. He's currently in that seat.
Yeah.
So if he's a contender, it's his
He's
seat.
definitely not Kimmy's anymore. He's retiring.
Well, yeah.
Just leave me alone.
That was what Bottas did.
That's his teammate. One day we're gonna get it right. What?
You had to do one thing.
Just
Ruben.
one job,
One
yeah.
job. You had one job.
And this week there's no trivia to even throw him off. So
And then he plays it for the second time like it's gonna do it any better.
just leave him alone. He knows what he's doing. It's really what it comes down to. So do we want to go down one by one? All right, so the Vettel deal, he has not looked so hot. This weekend included. He is not. Last week he did not look good.
Yeah.
Is he happy there?
I think he's okay.
Nah, he's fine there.
He got a podium there too.
Okay.
I think it looked,
he got
ever since they
disqualified.
took away his podium, he did get a podium. He actually had 2 on the road, but they took away his podium, and ever since then it hasn't been. It's been a little bit iffy with him. This week was definitely Stroll always goes well in Monza anyway. So.
Yeah, but it's academic, right? He's gonna resign, or the option will be exercised. They won't. Who else are they gonna bring in?
Hulkenberg? They're just. Why wouldn't they keep Vettel? I mean, Vettel's driving pretty good this year, anyways, considering the circumstances. The car's not that great, but it's decent. You can get points in it, and he's consistently running in the points, and it's what you would expect in a car like that. You have ups and downs. It's a midfield car at the end of the day.
But you also share with us this weekend that the
Bottom midfield car. Sorry,
the car was not set up for Monza. That they chose they invested somewhere else, so they chose to to sacrifice themselves in Monza with the way they set up the car.
Well, Stroll did pretty well this week.
Yeah, he strolled it. Yeah, the team is confusing to say the least right now.
True. They're all over the place.
From the start of the season where they just haven't been able to recover from the low rake to the high rake, they just have not been anywhere.
Yeah, they don't have the resources like a Mercedes has to get that job done. But listen,
Well, the budget cap also is not going to help them.
there's only so much you can do, especially when you have the rule changes next season. They're obviously gonna take their resources and focus it on next year's car. So, like I said, it's a team that's not fighting in the top of the midfield; it's fighting in the bottom of the midfield. So you're gonna have they're gonna have good days and bad days. Sometimes they're in the point, sometimes they're not. They got one car in the points this weekend, so
Yeah,
good for them.
And they had the 007 ad all over the place. I think there was a couple of things for it.
that's true.
Yeah, that'll make them faster.
All right, next lineup. Next item, George Russell official. Something we expected, something everybody expected. I guess just take our episode last week and repeat what we said, right? This is a great step for him. I believe it's a great step for the team to have another person that we believe is, we have to assume, right? Because we can't tell the future. We believe will be more competitive than Valtteri Bottas and will ultimately be challenging Lewis if they're at the front of the pack again for the Drivers' Championship.
Which will be better for us.
Yes.
Now, real quick, do you think he beats Lewis next year?
It's too early to tell, man. Like, that's one of those things. Also,
Be close.
Lewis is one of the greatest of all time.
Let's do too early predictions.
There's no
Yes or no?
There's no
Yes
way.
or no?
No
Yes.
way.
Yes
No
or no?
way.
No.
Not for the whole season, but there'll be days.
That's
he'll
what
have
he
it.
asked.
Oh.
Yeah.
You can't change the
So
question.
you say no. You say
Not the whole season, no.
no. Me too.
So he'll
All right.
beat him during races, some
Yeah,
races.
some
of
races.
course. I mean that.
But
that'll
the
happen.
teammates battle now.
Yeah. Okay. That's a too early prediction. There you go. No.
I wonder if I'll qualify him. That's where I'm like, man, will he be able to do that? Because he's been Mr. Saturday. Like, will he be able to qualify him? I don't know.
I'll qualify the best qualifier in F1 history. Ooh, it's just gonna be good. Listen, is it gonna upset the harmony at Mercedes? Yes, it will. But I don't think he's gonna come in like ruffling feathers off the bat.
Rustling feathers.
Rustling.
There you go.
Sorry, I had to.
Was that
It was a layup.
Yeah. I thought it was like a Freudian slip there. But it will be good for us, and it will be good for Netflix.
I cannot wait for that. Tsunoda and Gasly officially signed. Expected, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, apparently Tsunoda didn't think so because he felt like he crashed the car too much this season. That was a real moment of honesty there at the press
I
conference.
mean, he's not wrong.
No, he's not. He's not. But apparently he's, it brings a lot of good vibes to the team. That's what Gasly said. So why not?
Yeah, that's what they used to say about Bottas, right?
Yeah, no, good vibes.
All right. Albon signed deal with Williams. So there is a strict. So Toto Wolff had an issue with Albon going to Mercedes because he is a Red Bull controlled driver, and now he'll be driving with a Mercedes power unit and could potentially pass secrets. So there's a strict
IP clause.
IP confidentiality.
Yeah, intellectual property confidentiality clause, which is why this deal took a little bit longer to materialize because that's what Toto Wolff was worried. So the deal is that for the next 12 months, Albon is strictly a Williams driver, not to be in contact with anybody at Red Bull. So, and obviously the strict clause is that he is not allowed to share information about the engine.
For the 2022 race season, right?
Yes.
Not the next 12 months.
No.
He's,
Well, 2022 race season, yeah. Well, when he officially starts, I would say, yeah. For 12 months, whenever that begins. So, I mean, right now, obviously, he's still.
How do you prevent it?
I don't know. But you know what? At least it's in a contract. So if they find something, they got something to enforce.
We were just talking about before hit and record in 2007 how McLaren got in trouble for the secrets being passed along about the engine, and they got disqualified. And the way that they were found The way they were found out, yes.
You know what I found out is that one of the Ferrari engineers was making copies at Kinko's to send it over to McLaren. And I think one of the attendants was a McLaren fan or something, and
Dude, that's so crazy. That's so crazy.
That's when things started. Yeah. So,
and if it wasn't a McLaren fan, what if it was just another Ferrari fan or something? That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm assuming it was a McLaren fan because it was. There was a Kinko's in London.
He has a family member or friend that's really a F1 fan, and he's like, "Hey, what do you think
what
of
is
this? You seen this? Somebody doing this here?"
So now we know Albon's gonna take his Mac, and he's gonna go airdrop stuff to Helmut Marko.
I'm pretty sure there's somebody at one of those teams that can
find
out a way they can trace an airdrop.
Man, you're doing like a daily or weekly check on his computer to do all that.
Dude,
I don't know how they're gonna police it, but whatever it gives Total Wolff. If Total Wolff is confident, I guess I got to be confident too.
Yeah,
that guy's.
I mean, at the end of the day, this is what Total Wolff said. He didn't. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. He didn't want to obviously be involved in the decision of what driver Williams should be driving. That should be to Williams' discretion. But he thinks that, and it's understandable. He just wants to make sure that their intellectual property, as far as the engine is concerned, because obviously we're in competition with other teams, other powertrain manufacturers. They don't want that passed along to anybody else. But the deal's done. You guys are happy that Albon's back in Formula One?
I mean, we'll see what he can do because that Williams team is improving. We're seeing what George Russell is able to do, who finished again in the points this weekend. Mm-hmm. We'll see if he could beat Nicholas Latifi 30 times in a row or whatever it was that Russell did. Probably
I think Albon his strong suit was never qualifying.
Never.
But he was pretty good with his racecraft, pretty good during the races, much like what's happening with Perez this year at Red Bull. So, but does he deserve the seat? I think so. Yeah, absolutely. And he's not going to be under the heavy pressure of the Red Bull team. Obviously, it's a top running team. You have to be able to handle that. But it's good for his development. He's won a race in DTM this year, and he's obviously Checo has said that Albon has helped him a lot in just recognizing or just helping a lot. Just him understanding the Red Bull car this year. So I think he deserves it. And I also think that, him and Russell are very close friends.
And Lando.
Yeah.
Those are three best friends.
But, since he's taken Russell's seat, I think there had to be something.
Okay.
Even though they won't say, I think they had.
I say if he brings that attitude that he used with Checo to the team, he'll be a great asset to the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only, I was talking about his experience and stuff like that, but, he probably might be able to tailor a few things.
But he also has experience driving for a top team in Formula One and being a reserve driver, too, for a top team in Formula One. So that definitely helps, especially for a young team on the up and up.
Young team?
Well, you can say that. You can say they're a young team.
Dorito Capital, yeah.
Or Doralton.
Dorito Capital.
All right, hit the drop.
Gentlemen, a short view back to the past.
Yes, I know I have to memorize it. Yes.
Abu Dhabi? You think he'll do it by Abu Dhabi?
I will. I will do it soon.
He won't.
Wow. Confidence.
Been waiting for this long.
Yeah.
What's going to change?
So, all right. So this weekend was obviously different because of the sprint qualifying. So it was Friday practice, Friday qualifying, Saturday practice, Saturday qualifying, and then Sunday the race. On Friday, after practice, or on Friday...
I thought Friday was qualifying.
Friday's qualifying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sprint qualifying. I think he missed one word for Saturday. Sprint you said qualifying. Yes.
So on Friday, due to an issue with Bottas' car, it was decided to change his engine, his power... Well, the engine.
Yeah.
So once
all components for the power.
All components, correct. Once that happened, Bottas had to officially start the race from the back of the grid. Didn't matter what he did in qualifying or sprint qualifying.
Right, because technically sprint and qualifying and sprint qualifying is technically part of the qualifying process for the Grand Prix.
But he could still secure championship points with his finish in sprint qualifying.
Absolutely.
So, honestly, that was really the big news coming out of the Friday and the Friday qualifying. There wasn't really much specifically to talk about with the qualifying, aside from, we see, especially at Monza, we see each teammate have to give the other one a toe. Because of DRS the wings are so flat that the DRS does not even provide much of an advantage.
Virtually non-existent.
Right? So what you need is your partner in front of you punching through the air so that you could get the benefit of less drag on your car. Mm-hmm. So we saw...
Which equates to up to 0.7 of a second faster per lap if you get a toe.
Which is quite a bit. So we saw... Essentially, we didn't physically see it, but a lot of the teams, most of the teams, they took turns. Their drivers took turns, either the first run or the second run. That's when they would get the toe or give the toe. What happened with Sergio Perez was he was forced to give Max Verstappen a toe on each run. So he never was able to even qualify all that well in Q3. This ended up putting him down. I'm sorry, I'm looking up the... qualifying. He ended up qualifying in 9th as a result, behind both Ferraris, behind Pierre Gasly, behind both McLarens, and then ultimately behind both Mercedes and Max Verstappen. This is the Friday. Anything else? Right. Anything else come out of qualifying that you guys want to talk about?
No, that was it. I mean, I think, but it's also important for Sergio Perez to qualify higher. I mean, that's been his weakness. And
but if the team doesn't provide the help when it's needed here, there's nothing he could do.
He did have a chance for a second run, but again, he didn't get the toe, so it's.
And there was
obviously they're gonna be prioritizing Max.
Yeah, and there was a lot of traffic too because it was Max did a run where he faced a lot of traffic. I think Gasly also tried to do a run that he faced a ton of traffic where they just came barking over the radio about it.
I mean, they did change the rule, right? They said you have a minute 40 or something like that to be able to complete your out lap.
Yeah,
that was weird. So,
but it was still a ton of traffic there. I don't know what would be the solution. Maybe they'll come up with something or just leave it like that. But that's what makes Monza qualifying so interesting.
So the sprint qualifying at the qualifying positions for the sprint qualifying were the two Mercedes at the front. Bottas actually outqualified Hamilton. Then it was Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, and Daniel Ricciardo 4th and 5th. Pierre Gasly 6th, 7th and 8th were Sainz and Leclerc, 9th Perez, and 10th, my boy, the Bergamo bullet, Antonio Giovinazzi.
Pew pew.
The sprint qualifying. First, I want to ask you guys, what did you guys think of this sprint qualifying session as opposed to the one we saw in Silverstone? I thought it was much more entertaining.
It was very entertaining for the first few laps. I wouldn't say it was exciting all the way through, but it's only 18 laps, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
And
that was the sprint race you're talking about. Then.
Yeah,
sprint qualifying is sprint race. Yeah.
Jeez.
What's wrong with you, bro?
No, I'm sprint qualifying this.
Yeah, it is confusing.
The sprint race is the sprint qualifying.
It's all right, Ruben. We got you, bro. We got you. So, but the end result is exactly what we wanted. It mixed up the field for the Grand Prix, and it ultimately made the it made the Grand Prix much more interesting than we expected. Aside from everything else that happened, but all of that happened because there was a mix-up of the field and cars were out of position because of the sprint race.
What are your thoughts, Ruben?
We saw Gasly go off.
Yes.
During the sprint race.
And Hamilton had a horrible start, too.
Hamilton had a horrible start, which dropped him down to 5th place instead of qualifying up in the front row.
He would have been lowered if it wasn't that Gasly crashed out.
Yeah, and then we got, Lando and Ricciardo 3rd place, Lando in 4th, and then with Valtteri Bottas
I just want to get your thoughts.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to get your thoughts on it.
I apologize.
Ruben, what were your thoughts?
Stepping on your toes.
No, I was just going to start going into the spring qualifying.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Will.
No, it's all right. No, so Hamilton had the poor start. He says it was due to he had an issue with his clutch. He had the paddle, or I guess he placed his finger in the wrong spot for the clutch paddle. Okay.
Okay.
So that led, as Yancey said, that led to him falling down to fifth. And you ever seen like like if you're watching a video and it's like you attack a hive of bees, like getting swarmed. That's what it looked like the McLarens did to like Hamilton. That's what it looked like the Red Bull and the two McLarens. Like they just engulfed them right at the start. And then from there, Bottas took off. Max took off. And then you see just the two McLarens. I was totally shocked. Like you guys, like Yancey said, it was awesome to see. Yes, it was awesome to see a different starting order.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because of Hamilton's error.
Right.
I don't know if the sprint qualifying would have changed too much. If not for
as
that
far
error.
as for the
But because it was a race, that's what happens. If you're not doing the typical...
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing, but yes and no, because we have... Bottas had a great weekend. He dominated the sprint race. Let's give him his due. And he qualified first, finished first in the sprint race. But because of those engine penalties where he drops back, obviously McLaren was running well the whole weekend, but that promoted Daniel Ricciardo to the first row. Yeah. So, and we'll get to the results later of the race, but obviously that part, that just the fact that he started on the front row can give us more opportunity for the race result to be different than the usual Mercedes Red Bull 1-2 or the Mercedes 1-2 or the and obviously I mean I'm not even gonna say Red Bull 1-2
that
because
provided Ricciardo to the front, like how the hell?
Because Bottas, he's in the front row.
Bottas won. Verstappen was there, but it's because Bottas went to the back.
So like I said, it just provided a different starting grid than what we're used to, and obviously we know that the starts, if you get a good start during the Grand Prix, it changes up the race order, not because maybe they'll finish in that same order that they started, but it'll at least, if you have a car in front, since it's difficult to overtake, it'll back up the field a little bit more so you have a little bit more racing, which is exactly what happened during the Grand Prix.
And clean air gives you the advantage.
Yeah, so because you weren't seeing these 30, 40-second gaps up front where a car's just running away. It was literally exciting to see the entire Grand Prix and everything was so close. So it was good.
It was very exciting. So the results for the sprint race, Valtteri Bottas first, Max Verstappen second, Daniel Ricciardo third. Again, due to Hamilton. Just once that... do we talk about this now? But once that Mercedes car is not leading, once it's behind any car, really, once it's trailing, it seems to have a lot of trouble catching up and being able to overtake unless there's a monster tire advantage. Is this a Mercedes only thing, or is this just the way the cars are constructed?
It's a little bit of both, but this track...
But it affects Mercedes more.
No,
I think it's because we see it more.
Yeah, but also what it is that it didn't affect the Mercedes so much on this track because it's Monza. So they're obviously they're the most powerful engine on the grid. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yes, Honda has caught up, but they're not up to the level of Mercedes.
Come on, Renault.
No, come on, bro. Seriously. And then the only reason the Red Bulls are allowed, or not allowed, but they're just as close as quick to the Mercedes because they have to trim down the car aerodynamically to create less drag for them to be as quick or close to the Mercedes as far as engine speed on the straight line is concerned.
On track like Monza.
Yeah. However, I mean, and that was the only reason why. If it was another track, maybe the Mercedes don't move up as quick as they did during the Grand Prix. How's that water, Wells?
It was good. All right. So 1, 2, 3 was...
Yeah, because in the sprint, Hamilton didn't do much.
Nah, once he got behind.
Once he got that's
Yeah,
the thing.
I mean, it's
even-
just.
And Bottas just took off. Hold on. Bottas just took off and was in the distance. Like
Yeah.
Max couldn't even catch him.
I mean, he
Was Gasly ahead of Hamilton when he crashed? Or
seemed
they were
like-
like right next to each other, no? Or he was
Yeah,
just
I don't-
behind?
I don't
he
recall.
was up there. He was up there, but he crashed pretty quick. Like it was the first lap.
After the second turn.
I was still trying to figure out. I guess he didn't like the company that was advertising there because when he crashed, he just took off. But yeah, I mean, Gasly was up there. Gasly had actually a pretty good qualifying, man. So
No, Gasly wasn't ahead of Hamilton because
No.
Gasly, yeah, he was because Gasly.
well, he was
lost his-
sick. He started sixth.
No, I'm saying, but Gasly lost the win after the first turn after the little tap with Lando, and Lando was already ahead of Hamilton,
Yeah.
so he was ahead of Hamilton when obviously on turn one. So Hamilton would have been falling further back if we had like an IndyCar wing or something, because a little tap like that, IndyCar wing does not break.
No. They're obviously stronger in IndyCar, but I don't know. It seems like Hamilton's having a tough time with the starts this season, a little bit more than often, or more than usual, I would say.
I think this is the first time I've noticed it.
No, there was another race where he just didn't get a.
Or is it that
I forgot what
Or
it
is it
was.
that Max is just flying off?
Hold on, dude. He
Like
has
this weekend, obviously Max did not have a great start either. Obviously, in the actual Grand Prix, but we'll get into that. But
Yeah, but I mean, either way, I think the point is that the Mercedes car is not very good when it has
traffic.
when it's not in clear air. But I think most of the cars, but it seems like it to affect the Mercedes more. But what was in Mercedes' favor that it wasn't Monza, so you don't have a lot of corners. It's just a lot of straight line speed. I think you're on full throttle for like 70% of the lap.
Yeah, remember,
not
because
more.
if the car is leading, most of the overtakes that it will take is lapping cars, so they get blue flags and they get passed. They get to pass.
Yeah, you're right.
easy.
You're right. Yeah.
Like, you're not racing
dealing with
all
a
this.
lot of traffic.
You're not racing all these people you're passing
Mm-hmm.
because blue flags.
All right. So 1, 2, 3. Bottas, Verstappen, Ricciardo. 4 Norris. 5 Hamilton. 6 Leclerc. 7 Sainz. 8 Giovinazzi. 9 Perez. 10 Stroll. So everybody moves up a spot because Bottas' engine penalty that we talked at the start. Bottas starts at the back of the grid, but 19th, and Pierre Gasly 20th. Right? That's what I recall seeing. I believe so. Well, let me
Yeah, because Gasly started from the pitch.
actually. Yeah, you're right. So that's sprint qualifying. 3 championship points for Bottas, even though he got the penalty. 2 for Max, which turns out to be consequential because now from 3 it went to 5. And 1 for Daniel Ricciardo. Crazy to even. He just got an extra point, but right.
But and then just to point out the tactfulness of the tactical of the strategy with Bottas. Thank God he was there because he actually, instead of Max Verstappen running away and getting 3 points, I think the net change was 1 point. He just got 1 point instead of the full 3. Well,
You got 2
I mean,
points.
he got 2 points, but he got just 1 more point than Hamilton, I would say, because Valtteri Bottas got 3.
But Hamilton got 0.
I got you, but
On the construction.
on the constructors, I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
What's it called? WC one?
WDC.
WDC,
WC.
And the other one is?
WCC.
WCC,
Oh my God.
Alphabet C.
Okay, so the race itself and really the weekend itself. So I'm not going to jump into the main topic first, but how about McLaren's pace? Like that was something that we have not seen in a decade, right? As far as how fast they were, how dominant they were on this track. Ricciardo would have won on merit based on his start, right?
Right.
Regardless of the accident, they would have.
If nothing
would
went
have
wrong,
stormed away.
He would have. Yeah, he would have. I wouldn't say stormed away, but he would have kept the lead.
Okay, I'll give
Yeah,
you that.
because it's not.
Because of
We think
the
of
challenges.
Monza. We think of Monza as a track that it's easy to overtake, but it's not really easy to overtake.
Because the challenges this track, faced this weekend, where cars could not pass each other.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, he would have won the race. Yes.
Yeah.
Because as the race was going on, he will always be between a second and a half on Verstappen. Verstappen would take it as far as down as like 3/4 of a second that he would get DRS, but he would not get enough of a jump to actually pass him by turn one.
I think if things would have stayed the way they stayed, it would have been.
And it has to do with I believe with the drag.
Yeah, it would have obviously come down to tire strategy, but it would have to be one of those things where Verstappen would have to be pressuring Ricciardo and hope he makes a mistake in order for him to overtake.
Yeah, but then if let's say, for example, let's take it all the way to his Verstappen first stop, first pit stop.
We'll get there.
No, I'm we're just talking about the Ricciardo win, but just with the kind of stop that Verstappen had, Ricciardo would have won.
No, I'm just
because Ricciardo had just going on about each other.
What I'm talking about if it would have stayed like status quo, if all the pit stop would have gone, like McLaren would have still won. He wouldn't have stormed away. But,
no.
Yeah.
So.
And
the pit stop would have helped.
And also, Norris was up there fighting too, so that helps him too strategy wise.
It was 2 cars down.
How beautiful is it when you have your teammate there along your side to help? How beautiful is that?
It's great.
Ugh.
It's like they're holding hands.
So
I love you. You love me.
I think one thing.
Barney.
So Ricciardo, banger of a race, banger of a weekend.
Yeah.
Finally,
Dude came.
we see it.
He
He's
came
back.
through. He looks like.
He never left.
Yeah, he looks like the old Ricciardo.
Exactly.
Yeah, he never left. That's exactly what he said after the race. I just stepped aside for a bit, but I never left.
Lando, banger of a weekend.
Awesome.
On it. McLaren as a team just.
But Lando's been on it
Congratulations,
since the
Zach
beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we mentioned this, yesterday we were talking. Zach Brown but when they were going through their stuff with the whole Honda deal and they had Eric Boulier there, Zach Brown was taking a lot of heat
Everywhere.
to the point where they were like, is he the right man for the job? He's an American coming in, and obviously his strength is more of getting commercial deal, sponsorship. But he is the right guy to head the team up.
Of the order.
As far as like the racing is concerned. But credit to him, he brought in Andreas Seidel. He brought in the right people in the technical team. And now
because Andreas Seidel is not an F1 guy.
No, he was.
He worked in F1 before?
No, he worked in WEC for Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
And he won championships with Porsche in WEC. So much credit to Zach Brown because he kept, he brought in the right people, turned the ship around. I remember when the McLaren first came out with the papaya scheme. Remember how empty
that car was?
No sponsorships at all.
They had a GP2 engine.
There you go. But the thing is that also they wanted to blame everything on Honda.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the Honda engine was swapped for the Renault engine, they still had issues. So then they were like, all right, we got to take responsibility on the chassis side as well. So now you bring in Lando Norris. They signed Carlos Sainz, which is a great signing because they were able to take that team through the turbulence and bring him up the grid. Then you get the Daniel Ricciardo signing, who's a proven race winner, and you can see how that experience helps them out, even though he hadn't been doing good this year, but eventually we knew that he was going to get it right. You have a race full of sponsors and a car full of sponsors now. I mean, they're on their way up to be the McLaren of old, and that's where we should be seeing McLaren because it's one of F1's legacy teams, along with Mercedes and along with Ferrari. And Williams as well. Williams is on, needs to put the game, but I mean...
And Haas. No.
Yeah. But, I mean... The McLarens should be up in the field. They shouldn't be languishing at the back like they were. Same thing with Williams. They should be up there fighting. If not at the top, they should be fighting at the top of the midfield.
Well, they are now.
That's crazy. That's a good point on the sponsorships because that was like the first thing I said when you see Ricciardo's victory lap. I was calling out the sponsors. Wow, how happy is whoever. Tezos or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, DeWalt and all of these sponsors that they never had before. Dell Computers. I mean,
so now you have
Coca-Cola,
you have an American businessman in what's considered a European sport with a kid that's a Twitch streamer and Daniel Ricciardo who's marketable from here to the moon, right?
I mean, if you didn't like that Ricciardo won that race yesterday,
there's something wrong.
Dude, you're just miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just absolutely
The
miserable.
bar was
Go get
going
that.
crazy.
I took videos. I'm gonna post videos of the Shoei on our Instagram and our Twitter. But man, that was awesome. Awesome race for McLaren. Awesome weekend for McLaren. Let's
1-2.
talk about 1-2. First double podium finish since 2012.
10.
10. Woo.
First win since 2012.
2012. Correct.
Jason Button.
There you go.
So I want to talk about the accident.
The accident.
So Hamilton and Verstappen, their whole race. So one thing I do want to say before getting to that accident, and I think that it is very important to even mention, is lap 1, turn 4. You can see, lap 1, turn 4. So lap 1, the starting grid is.
Did we talk about the beginning of the race already?
We're talking about it now.
Okay.
Lap 1, turn 4. Lap 1.
But we didn't talk about turn 1.
Okay, so let's talk about turn 1. What do you want to address there?
No, meaning the way Ricciardo just took off. And
Well, we said that when we talked about Ricciardo.
Yeah, we did.
okay.
Anyway, so Ricciardo
Got a great
took
start.
off, had a great start, took command of the race. Right behind them, starting P4, was Lewis Hamilton. Also had a pretty good start.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Side by side with Max Verstappen, going into turn, not side by side, but they were battling there, going into turn 1, turn 2, then they get down to turn 4. Turn 4, Max essentially, I'm choosing my words carefully, essentially pushes Lewis Hamilton out of the track over the sausage curbs, forcing him to
Cut the chicane.
cut the chicane. Also, something that I didn't notice until watching the replay later on, also forcing him to give back the place to Max, slow down, and then who passes him but Lando Norris, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was very consequential because Lando defended the whole race so perfectly. Well, not the whole race, but until he was surpassed, so perfectly for many, many laps against Hamilton, just like he did in the qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
What happens? That causes a lot of issues for Hamilton to get past.
Mm-hmm.
Eats up tires. Hamilton and Bottas started on hards. Everybody else in the top 15 were on mediums.
Right.
After the sprint qualifying, you get to choose what tires you start on.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens? Ricciardo pits in lap 22. Verstappen pits lap 23 after a terrible, okay, it's hammer time for Max. Clear air, go crazy. Doesn't go crazy. Terrible lap.
Doesn't work at all. He lost time.
The tires were terrible. He lost time to Ricciardo. Fine. Pits, what Ruben was going to say earlier, it's an 11-second pit stop. Front right tire. What? I don't even know what happened.
I'll tell you what happened. So, and this is the direct consequences of the banning of the automation on the pit stop. So before
That was introduced in Spa.
that was introduced in Spa. So before, the way it would work is when they had the wheel nut in, there was an automatic sensor that would send it to the front where the light turns green on all of them. What they wanted to do was want to introduce more of a human reaction because it was getting too close for comfort. So they reverted back to now on the pit gun, they have a button there. Boom. They put in the nut. They have to press the button. That button, humanly press the button. That gives them a little bit more time. That's why you see now instead of 2 seconds, you see like 2.4. They have to press that button so they can signal to get that green light so the driver can go. The front right, was it? That guy forgot to press the button.
Are you kidding me? He's fired. Get him out of here.
So he forgot to press the button. So automatically, if you forget to press the button, you have to go back in and make sure that everything. So you unscrewed again, then he presses the button. That was the reason why.
He's fired.
Yeah, gone. Be out.
By the way, that's not as easy as Yancy just made it sound. There's a video out there of me bidding wells on it, but it's not as easy as it looks.
Dude, that's not even. Come on, this dude is bragging about something that
in Montreal we did the fan
Montreal on
fest.
the street. Yeah, come on, bro.
I'm about to flip over your
Seriously,
surface.
man, you're comparing.
No,
that?
but it's good that things like this are happening because the automation was actually come on.
It made
It's
the
causing
race
a
a little bit
safety
more
issue,
interesting.
yeah.
But it was causing a safety issue. But, but it also gives room for mistakes like that to happen,
Yes.
which in turn makes if the race wasn't interesting with Ricciardo, going off, beating
everything
Max
else that
Verstappen
happened.
at the start, and everything else out, that made it more interesting because that set up what happened next. Go ahead.
So it was an 11-second pit stop, right?
11.4.
11.
Jeez.
What happens next? Surprisingly, Lewis Hamilton comes into a pit. He comes in and pits, I believe it was lap 26. 25. He pits from hards 2 laps after Max Verstappen, who was on mediums.
That was when it happened. That was super strange. Like, why are they
Thus
pitting so early?
negating the advantage that they had. Whatever. They're the experts. I don't know nothing. What happens? Coming out of the pit straight or coming out of the pit exit, along the pit straight, you see Max Verstappen just flying, just going crazy. That's my car sound.
I was gonna say, that's a Civic or something?
Sounds accurate.
Is that a Civic?
It's a lawnmower.
Going crazy down the pit straight. Lewis Hamilton comes out of the pit exit, going into turn 1. I'm trying to say this the right way here. Going into turn 1, they were not alongside of each other. Max, because he was carrying more speed from the pit straight versus Hamilton at the pit exit, he pulls up alongside of Hamilton. Max pulls up alongside of Hamilton on the left side, going into what is going to be a left-hand turn at the second part of that chicane, turn 2.
Right.
As a result,
But going into the braking zone,
going into the braking zone of turn 1 or
of
2?
turn 1,
Okay.
Hamilton was ahead.
Yes.
Agreed.
Mhm.
At
Which, by the
turn-
way, Max didn't like because supposedly as soon as the white lines finished, he just shot way over.
Well, I mean,
That's what supposedly Max said that pushed him so far on the green.
but
Okay.
I mean, it's
So pretty much Max emphasized but he was, he like
But you
moved
kind of
on
got
the
to
braking.
move over to make.
Yeah,
that,
but no,
that
but he's like,
corner.
he, basically moved on the braking.
Okay.
I don't think he said that.
Yeah,
so
he did.
anyway,
Okay.
turn 2, we agree that Max is still slightly behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Looking to make that left-hand turn. He's carrying more speed. There is, again, I'm choosing my words very carefully. There is not enough space for him to be able to make the turn at the speed that he was looking to turn without pushing out Hamilton. Ends up going over a sausage curb on his left, jumps up the car, lands on top of Lewis Hamilton's car or by his wheels, gets popped up by Lewis Hamilton's rear tires, and then lands on top of Lewis Hamilton even more.
On top of the side of the side rear of the car lands on top of
The right rear.
The right, yeah. Well, almost the side actually lands on top of the halo, causing the wheel to literally take out the airbox, and then roll down on top of the halo and Lewis Hamilton's head.
I always knew he
That's what the wheel ended, yeah.
And then, the cars basically decided to make love to each other. That's
They
what it
humped
looked
each
like.
other. It was like a National Geographic.
Yeah, it was like, seeing two beasts in the wild.
No, but I just,
Like a little baby.
Yeah, a little baby Red Bull Merc.
if you notice, if you notice, after Max actually lands on top of Lewis, he actually guns it again, like steps on the gas.
Max or
yes, Max.
I think that's just a natural reaction.
No, I'm not saying he did it on purpose. I'm saying, but I wonder if the other wheel, because obviously we see this side is in the air, but the other one's on top of Lewis. I wonder if Lewis felt that in his head.
Well, no. It wasn't because what happened there, I don't think he was gunning it while it was on top. It rolled down, and it was on top of the front of the car.
Yeah.
But it rolled down. It didn't. I mean, it literally rolled down. It broke the air hoop, but there's a crash structure there.
Mm-hmm.
And that wheel, I think Lewis had the one that's like the most off camber, because the camber is just like how straight the wheel is. It just was able to just hit the top of his helmet. And you can see the scuff marks on Lewis's helmet.
So, Yancey, who is at fault here? We're going to go around the horn here. Who is at fault here?
No one.
So, to me, there's one of three possible things. Max is at fault, Hamilton's at fault, or it's a racing incident. What do you think?
I thought it was a racing incident when I saw it. When I saw it, I thought it was a racing incident. Now, when I read the steward's decision on it, and I guess we'll get that after what we thought it was Max's fault.
So your final answer is that it was Max's fault?
Yeah.
Okay. Ruben?
I agree with Yancy on that. As we were watching and the actual, had didn't happen, we thought it was a racing incident. But when you keep repeating and seeing it and replay, I think Max was at fault.
Okay. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I when I read the steward's report, I'll tell you why.
I didn't read that, but I just say that when they went into turn one, Hamilton was clearly in front, and he should have backed off right there on the spot because he knew he was going to make the other turn with the speed that he was carrying.
Max.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Lewis, and the way, the hype that they have between the two of them with the championship and all the other stuff, Lewis was not going to give him an inch. Plain and simple. On an already tight enough turn.
I think they that was going to be the case, considering what happened at Silverstone, that nobody's going to give each other an inch anymore.
I think it was a racing incident. I think that once you take into account Hamilton had just exited the pits, Max was coming straight on with full speed. Once you take into account basically what we had seen in previous races and even in this race with the Ocon and Vettel incident, that the drivers were getting penalized for not leaving enough space. I think that if I'm Max, I think that I'm going to be left enough space because I am the faster car as I am flying down the straight, as I am overtaking. So I should be left enough space to be able to make my maneuver.
There's one thing that you're missing, though, and this was covered in that report with the steward.
I can feel that. So as all of that was happening, because Lando Norris was there as well, it was Hamilton and then Max Verstappen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who were the blue flags for?
There was blue
There was
flags.
no blue
There was
flags.
no blue flags.
Yeah, coming out of the pits, there were blue flags, yes.
So maybe they were passing somebody. I don't know.
Okay, go ahead.
You can't be asking us this stuff. You gotta.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying it because of what I saw in the race. I'm assuming you guys saw that too.
No, I didn't see that. But the reason, there's multiple reasons why Max was going faster at that moment, but one of the reasons, and it was in the report, is that during that braking zone, and this you see this on the telemetry, obviously they're going to that braking zone. Lewis Hamilton braked first. And deeper into the braking zone, that's when Max Verstappen put the brakes on. That's why he was heading into that corner a little bit faster. So he's carrying more speed, and knowing the natural line of how that works, it's a right left. Right left. There could be an opening, and there was an opening there. And Lewis Hamilton has to leave at least the car's width, but he's ahead of him at that point in the braking zone. So once you get it, and they treated that corner as it was not two different corners, but as one corner, because obviously it's very quick. So what they saw was that in order for Max to make that corner and get by Lewis, he had to brake later, meaning he's carrying more speed, even though he was already carrying more speed. But when you brake later, he's carrying more speed, so you have less control of the car. So that and obviously he didn't have enough time to going further to cut the corner, so he wasn't gonna make it anyways. But instead, he went into Lewis's car and then hit the curb, and that's what caused him to jump on top of Lewis's car.
So there was contact with Lewis first before the sausage? That's what you think you're saying now?
No. I think. Well, I mean, it looked like he was going. No, it looked like he was going into that corner, but I mean, it was gonna be close. But I just think that he didn't have enough time to just veer off to cut the chicane. So instead he hit the curb, and that's what caused him to hit Lewis. Because once you hit that curb, you hit that sausage curb, and they've had this problem in Monza before Alex Peroni a few years ago in Parabolica, they had to take out that sausage curb, flung him into the barriers, and he actually broke his spine. And then Sophia Flores, I think it was in Macau, she was out of control, hit a sausage curb, and it
bounced into the
crowd like she was like a fly, like splatter into the crowd. She broke her spine as well. They need to take a look at that because that's super dangerous if a car hits it at that speed. And you can see, luckily for the Halo, that wasn't even worse because it popped that car right up. And once it popped it up, it was out of control, hit Lewis Hamilton, and then obviously it went over his head. So thank God for the Halo. I mean, it's already saved. You can save 3 lives in Leclerc. I mean, as far as F1, Leclerc, Grosjean, and Hamilton. So, yeah.
Grosjean definitely saved them.
Yeah, what happened?
Grosjean, it definitely
for
saved
sure, for sure. And that's because they made sure that it was a reinforced titanium, and it can hold up to the load of like a London bus. So
the double-decker bus.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that, I mean, we don't know what happens. Thank God nothing more serious happened than that. So
what are you thinking?
What I'm thinking is, what do we say here? Okay. So you guys believe it's Max's fault because of or you guys agree it is Max's fault due to the way that the stewards explained it and just kind of watching the race. I believe it's a racing
incident. But I think there's also, and Lewis Hamilton alluded to this. There's an article on Motorsport about this. It sets a precedent, not president, precedent.
This is not a politics show.
So, you watch the NBA, right? I'm giving an analogy here. You watch the NBA, and sometimes you see games where they're getting a little bit physical, a ton of fouls are called, and you know that the referees now have to step in, make sure everything is calm, and they'll start calling fouls a little bit more easily, just so players won't get into foul trouble when they calm down a little bit. I think something along the lines is happening here with the stewards going forward. Because what we have seen so far is when Max and Lewis, if they're going into a corner and they're close, we know Max is not going to back out. That's just his driving style. He never has, never will, and we don't see him doing that ever before. We have seen Lewis back out, but it's tactical because he wants to make sure that he finishes the race because he's always fighting for a championship. And we saw him do that at turn 4,
lap 1.
On lap 1. But if it's this close, the way it was very close, this is going to happen again. What you don't want to do is get it to the point where it's straight up disrespectful and they're just hitting each other left and right like in bumper cars. So I think the reasoning why, it could have very well been a racing incident, but if you let that pass, then in the future, we have 8-9 races left. If you let that go, then it's giving the green light for both drivers to do the same thing. And now we don't have a championship fight. Everybody. We don't have a championship. We just have a straight up duel, and it could get real dangerous because obviously they're driving the fastest cars in the world, going through corners, hitting each other with impunity. So you need if you let the drivers keep doing this, and we've seen it with track limits, we've seen it with anything else. If you let the drivers go, they're going to do what they want to do. It's up to the FIA and the stewards to rein them in. And this is an attempt for them to be reined in so it could be respectful on the track. That is my viewpoint on it. And that's what I thought before I saw this article today, because they needed to simmer things down a little bit. And then I saw what Lewis said earlier today in that article, and I'm like, that's what I wanted to get at. So it was kind of perfect.
And what he said is that they needed to cool it down.
Well, he said that it sets a precedent where this stuff is not tolerated anymore. Because I think the problem is, and I think we can all agree on this, is that obviously Max is almost like an old school racer. He doesn't mind the contact. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what we love about Max, because he's a fighter. But what happens is that if you don't rein that in, And just as Lewis alluded to, you don't rein that in, then it gets a little bit crazy. And now what you're doing is that you're just crashing into each other. And we can see how dangerous it can get. Even though these cars are super safe, there's a chance that something wrong could happen, and you don't want that. We want to see a fight. We want to see them racing. We don't want to see anybody dying or getting hurt.
So as a result of the accident and the steward's decision, very well written out decision, Max Verstappen for the next race will take a 3-place grid penalty.
Correct.
Is that enough? Is that enough to dissuade going forward?
In a championship fight, I think it's enough. They could have. I mean,
I'll give you an example. Based on the accident in Hungary with Valtteri Bottas, Bottas got a 5-place grid penalty.
Right.
Was that 5-place grid penalty more deserving, or was it a joke? Should it have been 10 places versus Verstappen, or vice versa? What do you guys think?
No, I think the 5-place grid penalty was just right on the money, because obviously he misjudged that braking point, but he also took out like 3 or 4 cars, including the front running cars. This was, again, it was very close. I mean, if they would have ruled it a racing incident, nobody penalized, I don't think anybody would have had a problem with it. But the fact is that Max did brake late, so he did cause an accident. Just like they ruled that Lewis caused that accident in Silverstone, and gave him what was the penalty there? In Silverstone?
I don't think there was a penalty.
There wasn't a penalty.
They gave him a 10-second penalty.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
They gave him a 10-second penalty.
Because his car was able to continue in the race.
Yeah. They gave him a 10-second penalty. But again, I think it's a combination of, one, he broke late, so that he did cause the accident. And 2, they need to cool it down, because we have 9 races left, and we can't keep doing that.
I don't know.
So that's the difference between, I think, a Max and a Lewis. Lewis would know that, saying, "Hey, we still got this many races, and we still got a championship to win."
Max, but Max's driving style is super aggressive.
I know, but you also have to learn that you also have to finish a race. You also need the points. You also have, hey, I'll get
he's the championship leader.
And I get another whack out in a couple of laps, hopefully.
Yeah.
If I just take the social security curve now.
Does he?
But but that's what
he was on fresher tires, Hamilton.
But
he wasn't as fast, but that was the same reason why Hamilton was fighting so hard in Silverstone, because he knew that if Max gets ahead, he would have lost that race.
But we never know, because remember, after that turn, Max would let him go again. He'll get a tow. Same thing happened with Valtteri later in the race, where he had to give the place back to Leclerc. Leclerc got a tow and passed him again.
I take issue with when you guys say, or when Yancey says that Max broke late into turn 1. The guy's trying to overtake. Isn't that what you do? You brake late.
You brake late if there's room.
Into turn 1, there was room.
But they're not. But that's the thing. See, that's the distinction. They didn't treat it as turn 1 and turn 2. They treated that almost like a complex, and they kind of have to do it because it's such a quick switch around.
I don't know.
You get what I'm trying to tell you? And
I get what you're saying. I just disagree, because if I'm the faster car, I'm trying to overtake. I'm trying to race my race. I can't base my race on what this other guy is going to do pushing me off.
But the reason, the part of the reason why he's the fastest car is not only faster car in that moment, is not because he's carrying that much speed, is because he broke later just to get ahead of him. That's why he was able, and he was never even ahead of him. Even it was very close, but he was never even ahead. Lewis was always ahead.
I think
we can agree to disagree.
I think the closest they got, as far as distance-wise, was at the actual sausage curve, and Hamilton still had the front wheel in front of him.
Yeah, he still did. I mean, but again, they're treating it as an entire complex of corners instead of just one corner, because they should, because it's so quick, and that's what makes the beginning of Monza super interesting, because you have all these cars going on this long-ass straight, just bottlenecking into that corner.
Don't even play online. There was one time I played online. I just let everybody pass, and then I drove, and I was able to finish P2 because everybody just wiped each other out.
Yeah, I mean, that, and especially in a video game, everybody's going to wipe each other out.
No damage or whatever.
Also, that incident to me showed that a lot of times the danger in F1 does not matter how slow the corner is or how quick the turn is.
Yeah.
Because they were going super slow, and look at that. If it wasn't for the halo, we would have been having a different conversation.
What's crazy is that super slow is still 80, 90 miles an hour. That's fast, Brian.
And at least on video, it looks super slow.
Yeah.
I
It just looks super slow, but that's fast.
You know who should be like punching air right now, really upset at himself, is that Red Bull mechanic that didn't press the button.
Because honestly,
I think he's still playing with the gun, by the way.
I'll tell you what, if that
was a
doesn't
penalty.
happen, this incident doesn't.
Gone. If that was like a 3-second pit stop,
Even a 3-second pit stop.
Because Lewis also had a bad stop too.
but it was like
It was like
4
4.6.
Yeah.
No, but it's still bad. Like, if we
Yeah.
would have had, even if we would have had a perfect stop, he would have gone
But
ahead clearly.
there goes that rule change rear, and is it an ugly head? It makes it more interesting for us,
so. Man, that's the other thing. So I was talking to you guys earlier about it, but these stupid the rules, they need to be enforced consistently. In this case, I get it. I see why they enforced it the way they did. But previously in Austria, in Monza previously, in Monza that same day yesterday with Ocon and Vettel, it was the driver that did not allow the space was the one that was penalized. Obviously, those were different circumstances, but I think that there needs to be a clear, this is what we're going to do. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think the article you mentioned, Hamilton does say that as well, saying that there needs to be some clarity regarding what's going to be enforced, what's not,
Yes.
or how they were going to be enforced.
That's what leads to this stuff.
that's what. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Because, I don't know. Does Max still make the same move? Probably. But at least we
he
know.
definitely
Yeah.
does.
You know what's crazy is lap 1, turn 4. I was watching the replay. They have an overhead shot of when Hamilton went over the sausage curbs. You see Max push him off. The next car behind them is Lando, who takes a much tighter turn, would have allowed plenty of space for Hamilton. So it's like, man, come on, what are you doing, Max?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, if you're the championship lead, you know what? I go back to Malaysia. No, not Malaysia. Singapore,
Singapore.
2017.
Yeah.
Was that the race where the Ferraris collided in front of
Yes,
Max?
yes,
where
yes,
they
yes.
squeezed them in?
Yes.
Max said this. And, dude, follow your own advice. I know it's been,
4 years, 3 years.
4 years ago. But at that point, that was a turning point in the season because the Ferraris, Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari was fighting Lewis Hamilton.
That's a very good point.
Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes, obviously. And Ferrari had the clear advantage in that race. Would have won that race, would have at least
each other
extended
out.
that
He's
championship
pissed.
run
Look at him.
further, and we might have had another Ferrari
He's about to go smoke.
championship.
Yeah. He's
But
turning red.
Vettel stupidly decided to cut in at the beginning of that race, cut in further than what he had
Try
to
to
cut in
cover.
to cover Max Verstappen and cause that collision. And from then on, Mercedes just took over and won the championship. And Lewis won, I don't know what number championship, he has so many. But the comment that Verstappen had was, I don't know why Vettel did that. You're leading the championship. Why must you be so aggressive? Why are you causing a collision, especially your car? Max should follow his own advice.
So I want to clap for Yancey, right? Because when it happened, thank you. When it happened, that whole thing, he was like, "Oh, Max, this is all Max's fault. He caused them both to crash." Now he's grown through therapy, through race therapy. He's grown. He's able to admit that it was really a Vettel thing. It was all messed up. I'm proud of your growth.
I am not
Yancey.
more angry
I'm proud
right
of your
now recalling that incident because of therapy.
Welcome back.
Okay, let's go.
Oh man. So all right. Aside from the incident, how about your boy, Yancey's boy, his favorite driver,
Charlie!
Who the hell is Charlie?
No?
Valtteri Bottas, and his day.
Bottas!
What an amazing drive from P20 to P3, finishing on the podium.
Deserved driver of the day, by the way.
Deserved driver of the day, in my opinion, Daniel Ricciardo.
Was he
got
even
it.
in the boats? I don't even
I'm
think,
sure. I didn't.
Not sure.
I was too busy.
Not sure.
I don't even think
I
he
was
was.
too busy crying.
Why
at
do you
Max
guys continually hate on both sides?
Get out of here!
You guys.
When?
There's one person.
Look at the performance this man put in. Drop, please.
To whom it may concern.
My man came through No, I wouldn't say dominate, but he put in a better lap than Lewis, dominated the sprint race, and then he had to take an engine penalty, started last, and finished on the podium. Bravo, Valtteri Bottas.
At one point, they said in the actual commentary when watching the race that he was lapping like a second and a half faster than everybody.
Yes.
How the hell?
He was quicker. And the only reason maybe he couldn't overtake is because he was on mediums, because he started on the hards.
Yeah.
But he needed to start on the hards in order to get these overtakes done. When everybody pitted, he would be able to go longer. Free air.
But it didn't work.
But he didn't.
But at the end of the race, his tires were gone.
They pitted lap 26 at the safety car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, his tires were gone. At that point, everybody else was on the hards. He still overtook a ton of cars.
So once again, you see this praise of Bottas. I gotta get your therapist's number because this growth is just unbelievable.
Come on, bro.
Bottas on the way out.
Unbelievable.
That's why he's saying all that
Listen,
stuff because
we have to.
Bottas on the way out.
Listen, we have to be objective about this and know that in the long haul, throughout Valtteri Bottas' career at Mercedes, the man has not only outqualified Lewis sometimes, but been very close to him. When the team needs him, he's there. He scores the points. He gets the win. It is the reason why Mercedes has won all these championships when he has been the second driver.
And
I've never said he was a star driver, but he's a great second driver, and he will be a great leader for a midfield team like Alfa Romeo next year.
Hey, Lewis said it. The best
teammate he's ever had. Come on, man. Listen, when he deserves to get shitted on, he should. But overall, you take the macro view, not the micro view, the macro view of this.
Yo.
And you can see that Bottas
Your therapist's
is a
number,
solid
man. You gotta pass it
driver.
on. Holy crap. So,
Solid driver.
Race result, we had Ricciardo Norris 1-2, as we talked about already. Valtteri Bottas third. Charles Leclerc fourth.
Charlie, baby.
Fifth, Sergio Perez, after taking that 5-second penalty for not giving back the place to Charles Leclerc after cutting the chicane, that turn 4 chicane again.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
What I thought about it initially was that it was smart not to give back the place because I thought that Bottas would have passed him and then he would have gone on to attack Norris and Ricciardo and would have easily, I think, won the race because he was just
because
on
of the
that
pace he was showing. Yeah,
it was crazy at his pace. So by putting another car in the way and not, what ended up happening, it was Perez, Leclerc, Bottas. Then Bottas passes Leclerc, and then Bottas passes Perez. But by not giving that place back, Perez didn't make himself, just like lap 1 turn 4, where Norris passed Hamilton, he didn't make himself vulnerable to get passed by Bottas. He maintained a place where Bottas will have to fight to get past him. Bottas will have to eat up battery and tire to get past him and not be able to push even further up the field.
Yeah.
There was a. What, you mean what?
Meaning, do you think he should have just given the place back outside?
It was yes, but at what point without you being hurt?
I think what killed him was the virtual safety car that came out. It bunched up the field a little bit more.
Oh, with the 5-second penalty.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So he got the 5-second penalty because obviously it wasn't a clear overtake. He should have given the place back. But I mean, and hindsight is always 20/20, right? But I think what killed him was just that
the virtual safety car.
The virtual safety car. And Red Bull was saying that the FIA didn't warn him about it. The FIA said they did warn him about it. I don't know who to believe. I guess they should put up the radio call like they've been doing all season.
That was the other thing. I did not. We were at the bar, so I couldn't hear.
We couldn't really hear what was going on, but
because the bar was going crazy.
But it seems like everybody's talking about this like it was clear. Yeah, give it back. But it really wasn't that. At that time, it really wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
If it should or not. So. But I think it was the safety.
But it was
really
it was also something that I believe should have just come straight naturally from Red Bull. Hey, give the place back.
You called it like right as it happened. He's got to give the place back.
Yeah.
So but Bottas was right behind it too.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, man.
And I think if he would have slowed down to learn through, Bottas would have gone
easy.
Yeah, but what happens is now is like you're instead of finishing like 4th where you should, you finish 5th, You get two less points.
I don't think he would have. Okay.
2 less points. And as far as the constructor's title, because that's what you're fighting for as far as Perez is concerned, you can get 2 more points.
There was an overtake. I'm not sure if it was an overtake, but there was an overtake in the same turn that Perez did. That when he just cut that corner, it looked. I don't know I can't remember exactly who he was doing.
Was it on Alonso?
I don't know if it was on Alonso or
like Carlos Sainz or something.
It was. I think it was on Carlos Sainz. But
I remember seeing it. I was like,
yo! Yeah. When he did it, I was like, oh my god, look at that! It was like the grip was like at ultimate level when he did it because the car didn't even move. I was like, whoa!
What's going on?
Yeah, damn! I even think Red Bull came over the radar and oh, great, great job.
Like, who's next?
Yeah,
I don't think.
I mean, yeah.
Perez also had a great pace.
He started 9th.
It's harder to overtake here than people give.
And thank God Perez was there because Perez held back Bottas throughout the whole pretty much.
And I think, again, Ferrari, the most consistent team on the grid this year, finished where they should have finished. I think actually better than they would have finished. It's just that McLaren got a 1-2. So
now you mentioned Ferrari, what was going on with them? Because I don't know where Leclerc on the radio, I think was during the
sprint
qualifying. I think we should stop, but I'm not going to say it over the radio. I think we should stop.
There was a.
And he even came out of the radio. I mean, out of the car and everything.
No, there was an issue with the engine braking, meaning like obviously when you let go of the pedal on a Formula One engine, especially with the electric motors, obviously what's happening with electric motors is that obviously it goes in the magnetic field, and when you let go, it turns back, so it slows the car down because it's regenerating. I guess that setting was off, and they can always mess around with that setting. Martin Brundle was saying that on the broadcast. They could always manage that setting, but it seems like they couldn't get control of it. So it was something wrong.
Imagine he got a couple of shots. I mean, guys, we got to stop. I just got shocked by the car.
This was during Friday qualifying. I mean, he was still able to get into Q3 with it. So I mean, he managed to do that, but it wasn't ideal, obviously. But that was the issue. It was something with the engine braking, meaning that once you're not under braking, the engine does have you even feel it in a road car. When you just lift off the pedal and you hear like the engine. Just,
when the gear is up.
Yeah, exactly.
Or low, whatever.
That's exactly what happened. But it's a more of a pronounced thing when you're dealing with electric motors, because the electric motor is literally like going one way and then going back the other way is harvesting.
So all right. So Perez was 5th, Carlos Sainz 6th, Lance Stroll 7th. Fernando Alonso 8th, continuing his torrid pace here of getting points. George Russell 9th, again 2 points. Another points finish for Mr. Russell.
Bam.
And Esteban Ocon, 10th place, making it a double points finish for Alpine. Unbelievable for Drivers' Championship. Obviously, the top 2 did not change except for the sprint qualifying. So now it's 226.5 for Max. Lewis Hamilton, 221.5. So it's a 5-point difference now. Valtteri Bottas, 141. He's closing that gap. I don't anticipate he'll catch him. Lando Norris, 132 with that second place.
He's staying up there, man. He's staying up there more than we thought he would.
What a drive.
Yeah.
And then Sergio Perez, 5th, 118.
Charlie, 104.
Yeah. Constructors, Mercedes, 362.5. Red Bull 344.5, so that is starting to widen out a little bit.
I think we're heading towards what we spoke about last week, where we're gonna have a different team winning the constructor title than we could have than the drivers. So that could happen, and that's down to Sergio Perez versus Valtteri Bottas.
But guess what? Valtteri took his engine penalty, got 3rd. Now Perez, Max, and Hamilton still have to take engine penalties for their next engine. So
yes, see what happens.
Bottas's performance could have just won them the championship with just that one.
Bottas is doing Bottas things.
Yep. McLaren 215, Ferrari 201.5. So McLaren, obviously that 1-2 finish, very helpful for them. Alpine 95, AlphaTauri 84. Wow, what a great job by AlphaTauri. Not even being able to finish either car to keep that close. And then the rest aren't even worth mentioning. 59 for Aston Martin, who's just whatever.
So we damn, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Alpine's taking not a commanding lead, but it's pretty, it's...
this weekend definitely helped.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So, guys, anything else before we wrap this up?
And Aston Martin, a solid 7th place finish right now.
Anything else, boys?
No.
That's it, yeah.
We're off to Sochi.
Oh, Sochi next week.
Sochi.
The preview.
Yeah.
You know who's the favorite, right? Mazepin, his home Grand
my
Prix. Sorry. With that said,
No, hold on. Bottas does
the
go
man.
well at
Yeah,
Sochi.
he's
And
the man
he
there.
having a fresh engine.
We're doing a preview next week. I just wanted to get that.
And with a fresh engine.
I wanted to get that joke in.
This is about to go
At Jump to
in.
Start F1, Twitter and Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and Stitcher is where you can find us. Download the podcast episodes. We are on YouTube as well. Jump to Start Racing Podcast. Hello.
Wave.
You can see us waving.
Wave, Ruben. Like the queen.
Don't use
gotta-
that
you
one
gotta-
finger. You got to use the whole hand. At Jump to Start F1. Guys, we'll see you next week for the preview for the Russian Grand Prix. Go Mazepin. Peace.